Well, having just come through a general election with the Tories correctly having been predicted to being almost wiped out, if I'd been a Tory MP, the devious side of me would have taken that opportunity to make absolutely insane, wild promises before the election and then ask Labour what they would do about it. Knowing you won't be in power and might not even be in a job as an MP. Just promise the earth, privatise railways, privatise water. First month you're in power, massive 50% windfall taxes on the big tech and oil, £5,000 winter fuel allowances for all pensioners. There's not a hope in hell of winning and even less chance of having to do any of it. Well, enter Volkswagen. Hi, I'm Dave. Welcome to Dave Takes It On. Well, Volkswagen have announced their new Trinity flagship EV built on a totally new platform and destined to be the Tesla beta was originally promised for 2026. And it's just been postponed until the end of, wait for it, 2032 at the earliest. Now, the aim is brilliant. They've got a new EV platform coming out in 2026, we think. They found a new software supplier in Rivian, and they do get an awful lot of it right. And that software is accepted in the USA, despite being based on the Unreal Engine, which is 40% owned by the Chinese, and is giving themselves plenty of time to get it right this time. See, Volkswagen started in 2020 with a real promise. After Dieselgate, nobody was really buying their diesel ICE cars in the same numbers. In fact, sales were on the decline after that. This was a really good opportunity, a good time to launch their EV, and they totally blew it. The market at that time was wide open and was actually looking for someone other than Tesla. It desperately wanted an affordable EV in the £25,000 range or someone to make a high-end, luxury, premium quality European EV at a time when Tesla door and panel hangers must have been high on something most of the time. Instead, it launched a very much smaller version of the insanely successful Model Y, but with far shorter range, much slower performance, inferior, just about everything, for almost the same price. And while initial sales figures were actually respectable, they've stayed pretty flat for a year or so before now they're tailing off quite rapidly. Even the ID4, much closer in size to the Model Y, roughly the same price, didn't do very well at all. Sales started slowly and just got worse. Had they launched the ID3 at a price below 30,000, I believe it would have swept the field. Had they launched a luxury premium Audi built to amazingly high standards with no panel gaps, it would have sold. Instead, they compromised and released a small car for an expensive car price. It failed to attract either buyer, and sales since then have been on a rapid decline ever since. Well, but now they've followed the herd. They've dropped almost all EV activity for the short term. Everything's on hold, delayed, postponed, and they've dived back into hybrids with a passion. The lead they built up as the second largest EV manufacturer is now not even worth fighting for. BMW, Mercedes, VW, they're now fighting for a place to stay in the top 10. I know figures suggest that BYD and even BMW have got good electric credentials. Most of them are hybrids. In pure BEVs, Tesla's still dominant, BYD second. So, back to the Tories. VW announced the next big model launch is 8 years away. You may as well add solid-state batteries, nuclear fusion and first landing of humans on the moon. Look back 8 years, VW didn't even have a proper EV at that time, excluding the half-hearted, recently discontinued e-Golf and e-Up, never sold in any numbers. A lot could happen in 8 years. Just look at the dominance they had in 2014. Hit 10 million vehicle sales, sold and manufactured for the first time. 2 years later, they were fighting with Toyota for the title of the largest in the world. And now, sales are way down. They're falling at an accelerating pace. By 2032, nobody knows what the true situation will be. But VW will find themselves pretty low down in the EV league table. 8 years is a ridiculous time. It took them nowhere near that long to design and build and go into manufacture of the ID3. Why will it take 8 years from now with the wealth of knowledge experience it's gained over the past 8 years? The answer is they don't want to do it any earlier. They, like so many other legacy auto, are hoping something's going to happen before then that will work in their favour. They're hoping the 2030 ban will be lifted, hoping EVs will have quietly faded away into oblivion. Nothing will happen apart from VW losing 8 years in a rapidly growing and evolving marketplace. Does anyone out there truly believe China will just drop back to EVs? China, the largest car manufacturer and user in the world, and they're just going to abandon it and go to ICE? Does anyone believe all EV drivers, 14 million of us around the world, will suddenly decide, oh, sorry, let's just scrap them and go and buy an ICE car once again? No, EVs are here to stay. And the one thing that will accelerate EV adoption, not slow it down, is easy to spot. Just look out the window. 2023 was now reported as the hottest year for the planet on record ever. And that beat 2022, 21-20, which was in its time the hottest year on record. The decade 2010 to 2020 was the hottest decade. That in turn beat the previous one, 2000 to 2010, in its turn. The world's getting scary warm and the pace of the increase is accelerating. Well, no sensible person any longer disputes global warming. It is clear to see it is happening. While some still argue in vain, it's not mankind causing it. It is. Now, just for a moment, before you start shouting, ranting and screaming about natural cycles, volcanoes and balls of a million other things, answer this. If every year it gets hotter or hotter than the previous year and hotter than at any other time in the history of the planet, if you had to bet your entire wealth, your house, your car, your iPhone, everything on next year either going back to normal or being hotter than this year, what would you bet? That is a no-brainer. Now, don't care who's to blame, it's just a fact it's getting warmer. Now, if it gets hotter next year, what would you bet for the following year? Now, I know all the arguments, but most people in power are of the opinion that we may be contributing towards it. And some people with far greater knowledge and experience than you or I believe we're actually causing it. And it doesn't matter. If it's getting warmer, it's getting warmer. And the worse global warming gets, the more pressure will pile onto those that most people blame for causing it, those who burn fossil fuels. Well, someone once told me they ought to do something about it until you realise that they are we. Well, pressure will swing wildly into the direction of a totally renewable future where we don't burn any fossil fuels in any aspect whatsoever. And we already see moves to do that. Those are only going to increase. Well, VW might be putting off their involvement in EVs, but the EV world isn't, and it will accelerate, and VW in 8 years' time might find themselves just left on the sidelines. Well, thanks very much for watching. I'm Dave. If you have enjoyed this, please click the like button. Every like counts on the algorithm. For those who want to see more, please subscribe, click the notification bell so we can notify you when we launch videos. And for those who would like to support the channel, have a look at our Patreon page. That's details down below in the comments. That will explain why you might want to support us in that way. Well, thanks for watching. I'm Dave.